Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Definitely appreciate the support. Obviously you guys read the title. We're going to get into a new cover 5 variant. Cover 5 is the same as cover 2 man. I just like using the verbiage cover 5 for reasons that you will see a little bit of in this video. Okay, so when you hear cover 5, I'm talking about 2 man. So obviously, if you've been to my channel, you know 422031. That's a sequence I put together a couple of years ago. It definitely helped me out in so many ways in regards to understanding offense and defense. But why don't I get to the point, because I know I can ramble. Anyways, it doesn't matter what defense you play in the game of Madden. It's going to fall under one of these 6 different shell coverages. So basically, we've condensed the entire defense down to one of 6 different defenses. Okay, so the easiest analogy I think I can come up with is these are trees, or metaphor, whatever you want to call it. These 6 are trees, and then these are branches to that tree, right? And the branches are just variants. So spot drop coverage, cover 4, that would be like your cover 4 drop zone. And then when you turn on match and you call regular quarters, that's what this would be. You can call palms coverage and it plays a little bit differently, right? So what do I have? I have kick. What is kick? Well, I have it in green because when something is in green, that's a check. That's something that checks into a specific coverage. So when you play quarters against trips type sets, it turns into a kick coverage. Okay, so I'm not going to get into that. I think you guys probably should know what that is. Where the weak side safety is taking the vertical of the 3 on the strong side. I'm so bad at this, guys. I gotta get to the point. Weak side safety, strong side safety over here, right? Let's say we call, quarters, and they come out in this set. And this is trips. This is the offensive line. This is the quarterback. Well, when you pick quarters against this particular offensive set and you have match on, they convert into kick coverage. So the corner on this side is going to be a meg, and then this safety is going to take the vertical of number 3. Your mic is going to wall off the inside of number 3 so you don't get a quick throw in there, and then he hands them off to the safety. Now, if 3 stays underneath or goes out, then this weak side safety is free to roam. I believe he plays more post control. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. So that's what I mean. That's a coverage. You can't play kick coverage against a 2x2 set, right? So when you call quarters, they come out in, a doubles formation. It's just going to play regular quarters where the corner is reading 1 to 2, safety is reading 2 to 1, etc. If this guy were to motion over here, right, and he's a new 1 and this guy becomes a 3, well, because you call quarters, it will check into kick coverage. So that's what I mean. In green is your checks. Okay, so stubby and special is the check that your palms coverage would check into against trips tight sets. Okay, so what I have in red are coverages that just are not in the game. Okay, so the stress check is a particular quarters type coverage that you can play against trips. Okay, and from what I've seen, it's not in the game. I think I may have found a way to simulate that, but until I can figure out ways to tinker with what I found, it's just not in the game for me. Okay, now why do I have this in red, green, and white? That's because this is kind of wacky. So red, it's like kind of not in the game because that's what red means, and then green is like it's kind of like a check type of call, right? But then it kind of isn't. And then in white, it means it kind of is in the game, right? So this one's kind of mix and match here. I'm not going to get into, the nuts and bolts of that. I really want to get to the point of the defense that I have in the title. So obviously, go check out my cover 2 video. Well, actually, I have a couple of them where I get into 2 match. I believe I went over what 2 sync, 2 seam, and all this stuff is. I went into 2 clip, which is a check. So these are the different variants of cover 2 zone. So here we're going to get into. Now, lastly, don't think that this is all of the coverages in these families, right? There's a lot that I left out, right? There's a read coverage that comes under here. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I just didn't want to put everything. I just kind of wanted to showcase examples of what I mean by this. So maybe I will add on all of the ones that I know about and then maybe share it with you. and then you guys will, that will stay with you forever, because that's something that will never change. Football concepts really never change, right? So they remain with you once you learn them. So two-man, okay, two-man or cover five. That's where we're playing man-to-man coverage underneath with two deep half safeties. Okay, cover five cougar is a variant of two-man. It's in red because it's not in the game. Okay, so I won't go over what cover five cougar is. If you guys want me to make a video on what that is, I can, etc. But we are going to get into pounder. Okay, it is a variant of cover two-man, and I have most of it in red. Okay, so I had to highlight that in there. So, the white portion is like where it's kind of in the game, but kind of not, because it doesn't play the way it should. But I will show you some unique stuff about this particular coverage. And, again, it's just good to kind of know what this is, because once we learn this concept, when Madden 24 comes out and Madden 26, Madden 28, you'll know what this coverage is. You'll know why you would call it. You'll know the advantages, strengths, and weaknesses, and etc. And then, once you run into a problem that that this particular defense would solve, well, then you can call this defense. Okay, so why don't I get to the practice field? All right, we call it cover two-man, and I want to showcase us defending it. And here we will see one of the ways an offense can exploit you. So here we are against the Raiders, and we have Waller right here, and we have Mr. Adams in the slot here. Now, I mean, this is good to kind of see this, because this is one of the ways you can exploit your opponent. If he's in cover two-man the entire game, or he loves to run two-man, well, one thing you can do is, these guys are in deep half, and the pre-snap read of two-man is on a LOS, as we see here, and they're playing inside leverage of their opponent. That's how you can read two-man. Double high safeties, corners, and defenders are on the LOS, and they're playing inside leverage. So the pre-snap read of this is two-man, and yes, we are playing two-man, okay? But what you can do is, these guys are deep half, we're playing to our help, okay? What teams can do is they can take their bona fide receiver, who would usually be on the outside, when they know they're going to get some type of two-man type of coverage or double high type of defense, and then they can move them to the inside, right? And that creates a lot of opportunities for this player to, wreak havoc in the middle of the field. Think about the double high safety defenses. The middle of the field is open, right? Because of the two deep safeties. And against cover three and cover one, the middle of the field is closed, right? So one way teams will choose to attack middle of the field open defenses is they can attack you in between the numbers, right? And why not do that with one of our bona fide receivers, move him inside? So now we get one-on-one against a corner on the inside. And there's another problem with this too, okay? So why don't I replay this? Watch how he destroys him at the LOS like he's a child. Gets great separation, runs a post pattern, and we fit it right in between the two safeties there, and he scores. Okay, one of the problems here is, again, leverage is pivotal when it comes to defense, guys. Okay, there's a reason why this corner is playing inside leverage in this particular defense, because everything is relative to where your help is. His help is the safety over the top who's playing deep into the outside, the outer half, right? So why would you play inside leverage? Okay, it's just more advantageous for him to play inside leverage to his help, so he can have dominant position on the inside. And as you see, we also have this sideline for our help as well. Okay, that's fine and dandy. But that's why, a team may decide to move their best player to the inside when they know they're going to get a middle of the field open defense like cover two-man, right? Because now, as opposed to us being out here and we only have this amount of space to work with, right? It's really kind of like a reduced split. And now we have all of this space if we want to run to the outside. And of course, we have all of this space if we want to run to the inside. We kind of open up more opportunities for us to attack left, right, vertical, etc. There's just more space for this receiver to attack. It makes it harder for the defenders inside to play man-to-man coverage, even though they have help over the top, because again, there's more space for the receiver to attack. So, why not put your best receiver inside against two-man so he has all of that space to attack? And I think I show one thing that I've read some teams, I could be wrong, not sure, is where how about we don't have our inside defenders play inside leverage? How about we just kind of play them straight up? We don't move them outside leverage because that would be bad, right? Because then he could just take the inside and there's just nothing underneath into the inside um, to provide some help, which is one of the weaknesses of the defense I'm about to show you, right? How about we move them to kind of an even type of neutral position and then you just play man straight up. But no matter what, I mean, I even moved it in the game, I believe here. No matter what, I mean, it's still, the bona fide best receiver or a receiver who's capable of getting, destroying you at the LOS as we see here. And obviously we see the middle of the field is open and it's just open season there. So we show the replay. Look at Mr. Waller. He gets inside leverage as well on his inside breaking route. So, I mean, this is a good play against cover 2 man, especially when we move 2 of our best receivers to the inside. And this is where we get to Pounder. Okay. I was amazed when I saw what Pounder was. Obviously, it's from Vic Fangio. And it was just amazing to me to see something like the adjustment is so simple, right? You would think it's some type of complicated mess. It's really very simple. And it's like, wow, I wish I would have, thought of that a long time ago. It's a very simple concept. And all we do is, wonder if I do it here. Obviously, it's 2 man, 5 under man defense, and this is the adjustment right here. There it is. This is Pounder. So what did we do? Well, remember before, these guys were deep half, right? But now they're in quarters defense. So you know how if you play cover 4 quarters, what's their responsibility against this particular formation? Well, this safety would be reading 2 to 1. If 2 goes vertical, then he takes him man to man. If 2 stays underneath, then he looks to bracket number 1 on a deep inside route, right? Well, now we have them running that same responsibilities, but now we have man to man all the way underneath. Okay, and it's quite brilliant. When I saw this play art in the playbook, okay, I was wondering, well, why would you do that, right? It doesn't make any sense. Well, think about it. When you're in a double high defense or like 2 man, what could we do with our inside receivers, right? We could attack the deep middle of the field, put our best receivers inside, and exploit you to the middle of the field, right? Primarily, we're attacking inside the numbers. Well, when we check into Pounder, we now have safeties playing to the inside of the numbers. So where teams try to attack us in the middle of the field against double high, cover 2 man, cover 5, now we kind of take that away with these safeties playing more to the inside. Now you may say, okay, that makes sense, but this is kind of messed up, right? Because we're playing inside leverage. Well, you're correct. I believe I read in the concept folder of Vic Fangio, and as you see here, nickel dollar pounder, where again, cover 5 underneath because it's man to man, but instead of playing deep halves, both of our safeties are playing deep quarter, right? But I believe they're still matching, right? So he's still reading 2 to 1, right? Still reading 2 to 1. So if 2 goes vertical, we have a potential for me to help out on that route, and then this player gets bracketed by the nickel and the safety, right? We get a route combination like this. Well, now the corner's man to man on this, and then now we're bracketing that. So basically what we're doing is we're playing, when a team is trying to attack the deep middle of the field against a split safety type defense, like, as I said at cover 5, again, they're attacking in between the numbers. Well, as we can see, now we're loaded inside while playing a man to man underneath. Now, where we shift our thinking is, again, we're always playing to our help, right? So where's this guy's help? Inside the numbers deep, right? So why play inside leverage? And that's where, I found it very interesting, and it made a lot of sense when I read up on it. the corners underneath play to their help. So I read, you know, it could be according to game plan, but obviously these players will play with outside leverage. So I believe I do it here on the practice field. Yep, move them outside. Move him outside. So we're playing outside leverage, man-to-man defense, knowing that we have help inside the numbers deep with our safety here. And these guys are thinking the same thing here, right? It's just a very interesting coverage to kind of throw against opponents who may attack deep down the middle of the field, or trying to exploit the middle of the field when they see that you're in a cover 5 type of defense. So here we're running the same play. You see he's on fire, right? Destroys him at the LOS. But the difference before, the safety was playing more so outside in because he's deep half. But now since he's playing the quarter technique, he's more playing inside out, right? So we are protecting inside the numbers despite us playing a middle of the field open defense. And he's able to play that a lot better. So we'll watch the replay, destroy him like a child. Usually that middle of the field is wide open, but we're playing pounder, not regular cover 5. Okay, so of course, you know, whenever you look at a defense, the first thing I think of is how would I exploit a defense like this? It's very good to know this. Even when you design something new or you put together something new that helps to solve a problem, on the flip side of that, I truly believe that you should think of a way to exploit the defense that you just put together, you know, so you know, hey, if it ever gets ran on me, I know where to exploit it, right? So we can think about this, right? Deep inside help with these quarter safeties, and then we're going to play with outside leverage, right? Now let's just assume that these guys match, okay? Because I'm going to get into the problems with Madden and why I have most of pounder in red, because it doesn't play the way it should, I don't believe, okay? However, if I'm going to match 2 to 1, okay? This is the 1, this is the 2. Well, let's say we knew our opponent was in pounder and we knew that they were playing 2 to 1 with the safeties, obviously matching, playing inside out 2 to 1, right? Well, how about we run a post pattern and we have this guy running a post pattern as well, right? And where would we attack with that? Well, obviously the outer post. And why is that? Well, that's because I didn't move him yet, but if you're going to play outside leverage here, expecting help to the inside, we can take this guy to run off the help to the inside, and now you are playing with outside leverage with all of this space inside for this receiver to attack, right? So you may say, well, okay, now I know that this defense is not good. Well, no, not necessarily, because again, we're just finding a weakness in the defense. You can find a weakness in every single defense in the game. There's no such thing as a perfect defense. This is just one of the areas of the defense you would know where you're weak. Your opponent decided to draw up a route combination like this, you can get exploited, right? So I believe I tested out something really quick. And again, the safeties don't play correctly in Madden, which is why I have it in all red, but just want to showcase something. I believe I ran 2 deep routes to the outside. So again, we're playing outside leverage and we're playing pounder. And I wanted to test this out. I believe I'm going to turn this guy into a go. So think about the route combination. I should run this safety off, and now I'm one-on-one against a corner who's playing outside leverage, where I can fit a ball inside, knowing that the safety has to run with the number 2. So I snap the ball, and we throw it inside, and look how tight that window is, right? And the reason why that window is so tight is because the safety in Madden, I notice when we convert them to play quarters technique as opposed to deep half and cover 5, they don't match the number 2. They really just play spot drop inside quarters zone, right? And that's where I think it's wrong, because in the true pounder defense, they do have matching principles, I believe, that it goes according to game plan. So one thing I want you to kind of think about is, remember 4220. Oh, that's bad spot there. Maybe I should thicken this up. 4, 2 zone, 2 man, 0. Okay. Obviously, cover zero isn't a true double high defense. It's really a no high defense, but I just put it here because it makes it easier for me to compartmentalize, if that's a word. Okay. But remember, we're playing a form of cover two man or cover five. We're playing pounder, right? Well, remember, in the double high safety side of the defenses, right? Everything that's over here, it's a split field defense. Okay. And what a split field defense is, check out my video on split field defenses, is if you split the defense, I mean the offense down the middle, well, when you think about it, this side of the defense is completely independent of this side of the defense. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we can play really two different defenses if we wanted to, as long as they're both middle of the field open defenses. That's where you get cover six. That's where you get what we know as cover nine, right? Where we're playing cover four on one side, but then cover two on the other side. Well, how about we take that a step further? How about we play one variant of any defense on the middle of the field open side on this side of the field, and we play another variant of anything in the middle of the field open side on this side of the defense of the offense, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, how about we play cover two match on this side of the field, and then on this side of the field we can play cover five, we could play pounder, right? Or we can play two man on this side and we can play cover two seam on this side of the field. Or we can play quarters on this side of the field and we can play pounder on this side of the field, right? The amount of different defenses you can play in a split field defense are endless, right? Because you can combine different defenses on either side of the field. And, the whole point of that is, different defenses or different variants are there to solve different problems. So if you're having a problem on the weak side of the defense, you can call that particular play or variant on this side, and then you can have something else going on this side, right? So the whole point of me saying that is, I believe Fangio has a word for a defense that he calls where he's playing deep half on this side, or your traditional cover five on this side, and then on this side he's playing pounder, right? So I make this adjustment really quickly where I just turn one of the safeties into the quarters technique. Okay, and what do? Well, we fix the rest of the defense, right? Play to your help, play to your help. So we can move this guy to the outside, we can move this guy to the outside to play outside leverage, and now we're set on this side of the field. Meanwhile, on this side of the field, we're going to stick with what we got because it's like a true cover five inside trail leverage technique. Okay, so again, the possibilities are endless when you deal with middle of the field open defenses, right? The more variants you kind of pick up, the more you can kind of interchange and make different unique defenses in the game. Okay, so here's the issue though. Okay, one more thing. One more reason why he may call something like pounder is, again, maybe they have a bona fide receiver and they like to move him to certain places on the field, right? You don't want to call cover two man, as I showed in the first 5 or 6 plays, and we come out and we notice that he's in the slot, right? That's a big problem. So one of the ways that Fangio deals with that is he calls, I believe he calls it finger. Finger or ring, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll get back to you guys on that, where the defense knows, okay, on one side we're going to play two man, but on the other side we're going to play a pounder, right? Or he has some verbiage where he has finger number 17, right? And what that tells the defense is, you're going to play pounder on one side and you're going to play cover two man on the other side, but you don't know where it's going to be yet. It's all relative to where this guy lines up, right? So we call, I don't know what it's called. Let's just call it finger, but he has the number with it, number 17. So everyone knows, okay, finger 17. So we come out and we notice that he lines up outside over here. Well, then that tells the defense, okay, we know we're going to play regular two man on this side of the field, and we're going to play pounder on the opposite side of the field. Okay, again, that's because the safety is playing outside in as opposed to inside out the way he would in quarters technique, because our bona fide receiver is to the outside. We want to make sure that he's bracketed on especially any deep breaking routes, right? Now, if we come up, we call finger 17 and we come out of the huddle, well, the offense comes out of the huddle and he lines up over here. Okay, well, now we would play pounder because we want him to have help inside this corner here, right? If he was outside, we would play regular two-man. So that's what I mean by that. Okay, so here I showcase the problem that I keep whining about in this video in regards to playing pounder, is when we put these guys into quarters technique, watch how this player doesn't really match any routes, right? And that's what I don't like. So I was trying to figure out a way to alleviate that, and one of my solutions was to play like regular. This is still regular cover 5 two-man with these adjustments here. Okay, now I think I changed it. Let's see. So how about we play regular quarters, right? Remember, quarter, 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 but we have match on, of course, because that's all I play with, match. Okay, and then we manually man up these players. So now I know you're in quarters technique and you're reading 2-to-1, and we get our true pounder defense on this side of the field because these guys are manned up. So if this guy were to go deep inside, he would match that and he should play inside leverage. Okay, and that's how we get to the true pounder form. And the reason why we do this is because when we call regular cover 5 or two-man, we turn these guys into quarters. They just zone out into their respective zones. They don't match or pattern ring or nothing like that. So this was my solution if I wanted to kind of simulate it a little bit better, was to play quarters and then convert these guys into man, and he would still match because the game is coded in a way to where when we call cover 4, he knows that he has to match when we have match on. Okay, obviously you got to move these guys to the outside. Now the problem with this is not practical because you have to make a lot of movements pre-snap with your controller, get guys in their responsible assignments, and then go from there. It's just not enough time to do that. Okay, but I figured I would show you guys this anyways. Oh, and because there's not enough time to do that, I don't do it on this side of the field, right? It's just not enough time. So I just play pounder on one side and then cover 4 on this side. And remember, it's a split field defense, so I'm not breaking the integrity of the defense by doing it this way. Okay, we can draw up any route combination on this side of the field, and no one gets a free path to the end zone, right? There's resistance whatever you draw up, right? If you draw a corner, guy goes inside and he goes to the flat, right? No matter what, he would go to the flat. This guy would potentially be bracketed, and this guy would run into the number 3, right? So here, let's take a look at it. I moved those guys outside. I called regular quarters, made my adjustments, see how better it plays. I just wanted to see if this guy would match the number 2, and he does. Okay. Watch it again. He sits flat. There we go. Another benefit to this defense is the run fits, because you remember when we turn these guys into quarters defense, that they read run, right? So I've had games where I call, pounder just to kind of check out how it plays against different opponents. The guy snaps the ball and he, looks to hand it off to run. My safety is down there all the way in the box by the time he hands the ball off. That's because in quarters defense, these guys are reading cue the quarterback first to check to see if it's a drop, if it's a run, and if it is, then they trigger down and go and make a play. Here I wanted to showcase, what if we changed up the route combination where he runs a post, he runs an out. You can pretty much envision what's supposed to happen, right? Because I called regular quarters, but I turned these guys here into man. So what's the safety's responsibility? Read 2-to-1, right? And then these guys are locked up man to man. So we have the route combination like this. So who should this safety defend based upon this route distribution? Well, he should be all over the post, right? Because he's going to read 2, which is this guy. If he goes out underneath 10 yards, then he can look for the 1 to look to rob post, the dig, or the curl. And that's exactly what we have drawn up. Okay. As we see here, everything checks out. 2 goes out, so now he can look to rob posted curl. and he does a good job of playing inside leverage. And here we see the potential bracket that transpires from having a defense like Pounder in your toolbox. Watch it on replay again. Look how, well, this guy gets destroyed like a child, but you know, we have inside help, so we're kind of clean on that. So just a couple of things. One thing I want to showcase to you is, you know, I check it out against different formations. So this is gun tight, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to play cover 5. I'm going to play Pounder. I'm going to see how it interacts with a formation like this. And I want you to watch what happens to the safety when we decide to turn him into quarters. You see that? That's how you know it's a problem with the coding of the game. So basically, you know, what the game is doing is when it gets this particular formation, you know, there's like a coding breakdown with the safety if he were to be changed into quarters defense, right? So that's what I mean by, you know, the Pounder being more so red as opposed to white, because the defense just doesn't play the way it should in real life. So just take this with a grain of salt. This is more so for educational purposes, so you know what Pounder is. And you know, I really wanted to drop this video because, you know, I was fascinated by how simple it really was and how effective it can be in regards to helping out inside the numbers while playing a split field structured defense. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to showcase to you that I found very interesting. I wanted to check out a different formation and how it would stack up against it. And I put both of these guys in quarters defense, and I want you to watch and see what happens. This is where Madden kind of throws me off, because now they're matching. You see how he comes down and he comes down? It seems like they all match the number 3. Look how this guy's triple team, right? So basically what I've noticed is when you put, let's say we put this guy in a quarters defense, he's going to match the number 3, right? So when I show that here, and look how he stepped inside, waiting for 3 to come in, and then he takes the number 3. Okay, so that's good to know. Now watch what happens. Now this is the most interesting part, I think, of the entire video. Watch what happens when I put this safety in the quarters defense against trips formations. Yeah, did you see how bracketed this guy was? Kind of funny how I use that word, right? Because essentially what happens is when we turn this guy into quarters, he immediately, I guess, is coded in a way to defend the number 3 on this side of the field. Okay, so you'll see how we get a nice bracket coverage on this receiver when we make this call. Look how he jammed him. Look how beautiful of coverage that is. Over the top and underneath, right? I was amazed when I saw this, and I kept running it back. As you see, he's underneath, he's over the top, right? So, you know, this is what I mean by, you know, some of it I put in white, and well, one letter I put in white and the rest I put in red, because it really doesn't work the way it's supposed to. But if you run across certain formations where you kind of lab Pounder and you know that it works, then this is something that you could potentially run. Okay, knowing that the number 3 will get bracketed off of this coverage with, you know, a route combination like this. So when you think of it, well, what could you do with a defense like this, right? Well, one thing I would do is I would take my best corner and I would put him maybe in the slot, right? So what does that do? Well, that means that, you know, I'm not necessarily worried about this receiver if I expect my corner to win one-on-one. And then we have our second best receiver to the outside, playing with outside leverage. Oh, no, I would play with inside leverage, I'm sorry, to utilize the sideline as his help, okay? And all that should be decent and taken care of, knowing that we're going to have a bracket on the number 3, as we see here. So the possibilities are endless. I remember Rex Ryan used to do a lot of different things, knowing that he had Darrelle Revis on the outside. You know, having a corner like that kind of gives you the ability to do a lot of different wacky stuff with your defense. So, maybe that's one thing you can do if you decide to utilize this check against trips and you want to double, a tight end. You can turn this guy into a quarters adjustment to get that type of defense going, right? But then, you have to be aware of what's going on with the receivers on the outside. Do you trust your corners to play efficient, or maybe you use or someone on the outside, etc.? So, I mean, this is a whole variant in itself, to get the double team on the number 3, right? Maybe this would be like cover 5 tray. I mean, there's a lot of different, the verbiage really doesn't matter. It's all about understanding like the assignments. I believe I did it again. As we see, nothing changed. He steps down, gets pressed, and we get a nice bracket coverage. I have not been playing Madden on and off for 20 years. I have never seen bracket coverage play like that, which is the more efficient way. It's kind of sad that Madden's been out for this many years and we haven't had a bracket or vice type coverage in the game, not one time. And if it is in a game, it doesn't work, right? So that's an interesting thing to think about. So here, back to the board. Now we got Pounder over here. And I hope that provides some insight on the defense, and I hope that it remains with you forever. So, 5 years from now, when you run into an opponent who's attacking deep down the middle of the field while you're in 2-man, you can decide to jump into Pounder and hopefully get a mistake, interception, a sack, tackle for a loss, etc. So I'll leave it at that. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you keep coming back.